Welcome to Sustainable Success. Hope everyone's having a great week. You found us here at the Lisbon platform here with Voice America Business Channel. Again, we are so excited if you are new that you found us here. And we encourage you also to follow the show on our Spotify channel, Apple, and then also YouTube. Yes, YouTube, where we live stream the live show as we're doing it. And you could listen to the audio recording there as well anytime thereafter. We also encourage any of the new listeners new to our show to listen, also to subscribe to our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. There we've had many of our great guests sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate you and your personal success to the next level. We want to thank those listeners that have been with us now for over 8.5 years. It's hard to believe, God, we are approaching almost, God, 500 plus episodes. Yes. We do this show every week and we have not missed a week, other than if it happened to fall on a holiday. Yeah, that happens occasionally. But nonetheless, we want to thank you, listeners, because this show would not be possible if it wasn't for you. And this show is designed to help you and your business to take your level of knowledge and apply it, including influence, to take you to the next level. Our show today is brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about, what are some of the things like, the hidden burnout of high achievement when success stops feeling like success. We're going to call the name of the show is the pressure paradox. Yeah. And I'm sure many of you get caught up in that. But we have the right person that is going to share some valuable insights into this particular area. Her name is Dr. Laurie Emery. She is a doctor of psychology and founder of Ignite Your Life, where she helps high achieving women break free from burnout, internal blocks, and self sabotage. A two-time Businesswoman of the Year, Dr. Laurie blends psychology, semantics, and soul work to guide women into aligned, purpose driven success. Her coaching has helped thousands shift from pressure to power, and today she joins us to share the mindset, emotional clarity, and transformational tools required to thrive from the inside out. And we welcome Dr. Laurie Emery to the show. Dr. Laurie Emery, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Christopher. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We are so excited to have you here. So we always like to start the show with a little either a backstory or background to the foundation of what led you as a doctor of psychology into this area, and it is so timely because of all the issues with burnout on an individual, a team, even an organizational level. I would even say on a community level as well, that there's so much burnout and and so many people are reacting to it rather than being proactive. And I know you specialize with working with women, high performing women especially. If you could talk a little bit about maybe the backstory of that and where, again, what you're going to be sharing with us here today to help, especially the women leaders that listen to this show each and every week.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, although I am a woman, a lot of my clientele are also highly driven entrepreneurs or founders as men, just so you know. So
Okay, great.
we do not exclude men in my ecosystem. So the backstory is this, I started off in psychology originally because I was looking to unleash and get unstuck inside myself from where I was stuck. I've always been a driven high achiever. I think from the very young age, I've always been one who loves achieving and accomplishing, and I've always been very innovative in my mind. Only to hit after 4 degrees later and building businesses and starting my life, realizing all of what was going on inside of me while I was accomplishing, and it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't enjoyable, right? I wasn't a fulfilling. I'd reached an accomplishment and couldn't even sit in that success and enjoy it, and that created a stress and an anxiety for me over time. And I kept searching for my own answers and I couldn't find them within the mental health field. I went to therapists, I went to coaches, and just very frustrated. And I also have a father who suffered from mental health issues. And for 16, 17 years, he wasn't getting the help that he needed. And there's just a real heart-centered frustration for me personally and within my family. And I had opened a large group practice and watching what my clients were going through, all of those, have always attracted driven high achievers into my work. And so when I started finding the tools that would began to help me be unstuck, I started implementing them in my work. And that's when I really felt that it was time to create what people actually need. And
Mm.
mindset alone and talking does not help people heal. It does not help people break free from where they're stuck. And so I'm gonna shift a word that you used when you were reading my bio and use the word semantics as opposed to somatics. And it's a really important word because somatics has to do with using your body, I say, as like a thermometer.
Oh, I
And
love it.
my belief is that we are this energy, this a spirit living in this human condition. And I'm not religious; I'm very spiritual. But so whether you're a religious person or you believe in energy and quantum physics, it all works. Translate it so that it works for you. But if you imagine all that energy is housed in this meat suit, as the Course in Miracles calls it, and our job while we're on this journey is to understand and master this experience. Well, this experience is created by our thoughts, our feelings, and our physical sensations. And energetically, when we're young, a lot of those highly impactful moments get stored in the body as trapped energy, which is why often for those of us who are high achievers, we get this feeling of like we're stuck or what we've been using to motivate ourselves is the thing that's causing burnout. So, a colleague out there of mine who I did his coaching program a while back, Shirzad, created this beautiful resource called Positive Intelligence. And he created this idea that we have these 10 saboteurs that we are thrown to that we created out of survival as a young child. And survival doesn't mean we live through trauma. It means we live through highly emotional situations that we interpreted and then we made decisions and created beliefs around them. And they live inside of our head like characters, right? There's our judge, our hyperachiever, our avoider, our pleaser, our hypervigilance. We've got all of them. And we learn to live with them like they're a rock in our shoe that's just been there forever. We don't even realize we're operating out of them. The symptom of operating out of our survival, which is the way our lower brain functions, is burnout, anxiety, depression, lack of fulfillment, disrupted relationships, not being able to reach our results that we want, not reaching the financial levels that we want in our life, but we know we are capable of it. And so those who search for answers are the kind of people that I end up working with because it's that willingness to then use this body and learn the tools of how do I begin to learn how to track what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, and then how do I read that energy and not become that and become attached to it like it's me, but use it to then create whether I need a healing moment, a breakthrough of that energy, and or going after what I'm committed to in my life. And so all of those tools come together and they must be used together to create real freedom so that we don't keep going back into our old habits and our old automatics.
Mm.
And that's the kind of transformational work that I do.
Wow, I love that. I love the backstory. We have very similar backstories. Myself, what got me into what I do today was all through my own personal experience, going through 12 years of addiction in this case, and my journey through mental, having ADHD in this case with myself, and then having a father who also had some issues and died. I'm a firm believer died of his own self-limiting beliefs at the age of 56 through cancer because he didn't know how to process these things. He stuffed everything. So I can relate
Sure.
on so many levels, and I love what that you just don't you didn't rely upon your psychology, what you learned there, and you applied what you were feeling, what was really happening with you, and I love how you set the foundation here, what you're going to talk about today. If we When we talk about pressure, we all, I guess, deal with all different types of levels of pressure when we look at certain things that are doing. And there's so many things out there with, what people are dealing with. In this case, it could be high performing men and women, but they don't sometimes see, or maybe they do, or maybe they don't. They don't recognize these signs, that these things that could be leading to burnout when they're striving for success or something important in their life. What would be some of the things that they could be missing, or maybe just not seeing at all, when it comes to these things that could be causing pressure on various levels, but maybe they just don't think the pressure's gotten high enough to do anything about, but yet it's doing
Yeah.
damage.
Sure. I mean, one of the easiest places to look is the body, to look at, are we overweight? Are we dealing with migraines? Are we dealing with anxiousness? And sometimes that anxiousness is one of the things we've learned to live with. It's the driver because but it's fear-based. So it
Yeah.
actually breaks down our nervous system. It breaks down the body. Sometimes we eat over it. Sometimes we drink over it. Sometimes we do social media over it. So the first place to look is finding all of the things that we use to stay away from ourselves, right? And often, a lot of times with us high achievers, it's even work. How many hours a week are you actually working? And it's a slippery slope because in achieving in life, there's nothing wrong with it. And a lot, I work with, and I myself am one where we own several businesses. Where some are people who, uh, we actually love what we do for a living. It's fun. But when that's where we lean into and we're paying prices in other domains of our life. So we look at our health and wellness. Are we at optimal health? Are we taking care of ourselves? Do we exercise? Do we eat well? Are we over drinking or spending so much time on social media that we're not in relationship with ourselves? The other domain to look at that's an easy one is our relationships in our life, right?
Mm.
And now this one's tricky too, though, Christopher, because even in coupleship, and this is human being, we tend not to address something
Yeah.
until there's pain, until there's enough of a problem that dealing with it is better than losing it, or that the pain of dealing with it is better than the pain of not dealing with it, I say. As human beings love to run to pleasure and avoid pain. The problem with that is oftentimes we are in our relationships, if we have them, if we haven't already destroyed the relationships that are in our wake, right, and gotten divorced or have a lot of breakups, or for some people just don't have them. If we have them, oftentimes we get stuck in a rut over time. We stop even really connecting. Because I say even stop connecting, but I work with couples who are together 30 years and they don't have intimacy, and I mean emotional intimacy in their
Yeah.
relationship. And so it shows up where we get in a rut. We don't have sex anymore. If we do, it's once a month. There's no passion, there's no excitement, right? The partner has given in to saying, well, they're working, they're making money for the family, that feels justified. So there's this low level of numb across things
Yeah.
in our life where there's no passion and excitement. And or we, for some couples, because I work with a lot of founders that work together, the excitement is we're always moving, we're always achieving, we're always completing our goals. But then where's the relationship, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different places to look to give you evidence. And I always say, if you want to know how you're doing, ask the people in your life for feedback of what it's like being in a relationship with you and ask them to be honest.
Yes, exactly.
But
No,
that
I
lack of
love,
fulfillment,
yeah.
when we lay our head down on the pillow at night and we're quiet with ourselves, we know. We know what we're avoiding. We know what we're not looking at. We know what it feels like to live inside of ourselves if we just take a minute. We know where we get triggered and maybe we lose our temper, or we're impatient, or we don't have a long attention span. We have to flip from thing to thing to thing, with which often can be emotionally driven. So there's a lot of places to look. And then the fun one for us high achievers is looking at, are you reaching the level of abundance in your life that you know you're capable of? We often feel stuck.
Great, great points, and I can relate to so many with that. And like you said, there's always this sense of heaviness and that's when either I could feel it in my body, I could feel it in my mind, and if I'm not addressing it, then and I'm trying to escape it. Even thank God I haven't done that in many years. I used to try to resist it, run away from it, but now I embrace it, and I can say that through my challenges and through my pain and through my those obstacles, our outcomes come from that than just if I'm always looking for what's working. See it, because what
Absolutely.
works usually comes out of what wasn't working before. So I love that, and how you could do that, and how the body, and what I got from you when you said that is the body never lies, right? We could say, oh yeah, I feel fine, I'm doing great, but your body's saying, no, you're not. You got this pain going on, but that pain isn't just because you have a pain in your knee or your back. It's because of something maybe up here that you're not addressing, or you're failing
Your
to.
yeah, your
Yeah.
body's giving you signals,
Exactly.
right? Your
Exactly.
digestive system's going to tell you, your stomach, your back, your head, if you have headaches, it's all going to tell you if you listen.
It's so true. And I hope that listeners that you're really letting that absorb in what Dr. Emery is sharing here, because this is so important, because these could be the very things that could be now holding you back where you are personally and in your business, no matter if it's on a professional level, personal level, any combination thereof. This is so important. As we go, we're going to be getting ready to go into the next into a break here shortly. Dr. Emery, if there anything else you want to elaborate what you just shared before we go to break, or anything you want to sum up, I think this would be a great time to do that.
Yeah, I think one big one that I left out that's super important for us high achievers, how we hide, is we just keep moving. We
Yeah,
keep moving. And
it,
sometimes that need to keep moving is evident. That's the evidence that something's going on.
something's going on. Yeah. So it's so true. Because like you said, you think you can run away from it, but it's always there, and it's always gonna, the body's gonna remind you time and time and time again. It's gonna keep knocking on that door up here until we do something about it. And I can't wait for you to share and elaborate further on what those things may be when we come back. I know we got to go to break, but I hope again everybody is taking notes. Again, we highly encourage you to go back and listen to this segment, not to mention the entire episode. More again, even though you're on this show right now, listen to it again. There are a lot of great information and great insights that Dr. Laurie is sharing here. And again, this is going to be something that could be helping you where you are now to get to the next level, both personally and professionally. We've got to go to break, but when we come right back, we got more with the pressure paradox with Dr. Laurie Emery. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Sustainable Success. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the pressure paradox. Again, the hidden truths of high performers in terms of burnout, what to be looking for. And if you're just joining us, we were talking about a little bit about the backstory of where Dr. Laurie Emery got into what she does and how she's helped so many high performers in this area. And what are some of the things we could be looking for when we might be experiencing burnout on whatever level that is? A lot of times it's very subtle, and by the time we recognize it, it may be to the point where now it's done some of its damage. And that's the things that we're hoping to be proactive to help offset for you now to catch it early, being proactive rather than reactive, and how now you can find better ways to find more harmony in your lives. Dr. Laurie, if we're looking at people now, let's say, for instance, they start to recognize that, hey, they've had this heavy feeling, maybe they've had some pain in the body. There's obviously they feel frustrated, and this has been, somewhat consistent now over time. what would you recommend would be that first step that they start to take if they feel like on some level that maybe they're experiencing burnout and maybe the pressure has gotten too high? What can they be doing? What would be that first step? And then anything you'd like to share with the process thereafter.
Sure. I mean, look, I think the first step always, Christopher, is the willingness to be honest with ourselves.
Mm,
It's not an easy first step because our brain is wired to help us stay in survival and stay safe and hide. And so being willing to sit down and look at every domain of your life, just get honest. And if there was a scale from 1 to 10, if ten's like it's perfect, I wouldn't change anything, and one's like, things aren't going very well, right? And if you were to take a look at how are your finances, how's your eating, your health, your wellness in terms of taking care of yourself? How are your relationships, right? Your partner relationship with your significant other, with your children, with your parents, people who are important to you. How's your social life? How's your vacation and relaxation time, right? What do you do that's just for no reason at all? Taking a look at, if you're somebody who loves community service, put that on the map for you to look at. Look at your own, what I call spirituality or personal development, like all domains of your life. Take a look and rate it for yourself and get honest. It's between you and you. Rate how well it's going. And in every area that is less than a 10, which most are, it's true for most of us, sit and be with, if it was operating at a 10, what would it be like? What would it feel like? What a week in my life look like? Right? What would my whole life, if I created that vision for myself, what would my life feel like from day to day at the end of the day, right? Would I feel fulfilled and passionate and excited? And would I love what I do for a living? And would I be excited to come home to my partner? And, how do we live life on fire, I call it, which is why the name of my company is Ignite, because it is available to us if we're willing to be honest that we've allowed things to be mediocre. We've allowed, even though for us driven high achievers, when we compare ourselves to others, we look really good. I always say our 50% looks like everybody else's 100. And so if we get honest with ourselves about between me and me, not compared to anyone else, but based on what I know I want in my life and what I'm capable of, right? My own measuring stick, then what does every area look like for me? And the reason to look at all domains of life is because we're very sophisticated as driven high achievers. If we only look at career and go, gosh, my career's on fire, like I've done all the things I've ever wanted. I used to say that all the time. I got my degrees when I said I wanted them. I read all the books I wanted, and I've educated myself out the yin yang over my lifetime. But then I look over at how are my relationships doing? How are my finances? And like you, I had a hidden addiction for a very long time. And those can be subtle, right? All the ways we check out, watching TV, social media, all the disconnection. But when we're willing to get honest, it's a great place to start, because if we don't know where we are, how do we know where to get up from? So that's the very first step, is getting honest with ourselves. The other thing I say, and it sounds very cliche, but I feel it's really true for me today, is that using my breath as my first medicine, right? I work with plant medicines over the years as well. I formally left the mental health field in 2012 because of branching over to start working with plant medicines, because being able to use your breath as a medicine that then takes you into your body, even if you can't sit or meditate, it's fine. But if you
yeah.
could use your breath to be able to go into your body, breathe all the way into your belly, and do that several times a day, come out of your head and get present into the moment. Because one of the biggest challenges is people are not present. Our brain hijacks us all the time. And without being able to be present, we don't have awareness of what's happening in the body long enough to be able to read it. And so
Mm.
creating presence and truth with ourselves, those are the first steps. Presence and truth. Now, you want to go into the rest?
Yes, please do. I love this. Yeah. All right,
So
listeners, get ready. Take notes.
what I do with people first is I ask them to take that measuring of all domains of your life and paint me a picture as if all of your life was over today and you've got a blank canvas in front of you. Now, this is challenging because the brain likes to compare to what I did, what I know, what I'm good at, what I have. But if you can get yourself to a dream state, just dream like you're a little kid, like when we would when we were little. Everything is possible. You cannot fail. And just imagine, what would my life be like? Where would I live? How would I travel? What's my partner like? How do we treat each other? How do we live life together? How does my business fit into that? What are all my passions and hobbies? Right? If you have children, how do my children bleed into that and my family time together? How would I be spending my life? Because this is the one life that we have, Christopher. Like,
Yeah,
let's not waste it being mediocre and unfulfilled and lacking passion, right? Begin to live into and dream into what would bring me joy. And taking that vision, that's now the new GPS for what I'm committed to in my life. And then we create the action steps to go after that vision. And here's why. When we have the courage to go after something that scares us, when we have the courage to go after and dream into things that we don't even know how it's possible, then we are required to get out of our little comfort box that we live in inside of ourselves. That living in comfort actually is not our friend. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us safe, but it keeps us stuck.
yeah,
We go there because the brain, when we feel fear, we tend to retreat. We go, and we literally have designed our whole life around comfort. And it's cool that us high achievers have such great results because we have a longer measuring stick for comfort because of being high achievers, and often it's fear-based. We've learned to tolerate a different level of fear. However, what's available to us when we're willing to dream into what we actually want is on the other side of tolerating the fear of what it will take to get there. And that just takes realizing that if we go into the body when fear comes up, when not knowing comes up, all of our survival techniques come up. I grew up thinking that if I know, then I'll be safe, right? I
yeah,
grew up with a bipolar, out of control dad, and so his rages were very scary. So I
yeah,
created the belief that if I know what's happening, this hypervigilance, the control of things in my life, then I'm okay. Well, that worked for me then. However, it didn't work for me when I wanted to go after really big things in my life because there's a lot of things that I don't know when I'm going after something that's unfamiliar to me.
yeah,
So it wasn't working. It was actually keeping me stuck. And in order to get to the goals and the high level things I have going on in my life today, I had to redesign where I operated from inside of myself.
yeah,
So going after those goals, that fear came up. And the job was to push through it, not to retreat back into my comfort, push
yeah.
through in out of my commitment to going after what I wanted.
And in
Now,
essence, like you're not playing small, you're playing big. And playing big doesn't mean about, hey, I have to make millions and millions of dollars. Playing big means that you're doing something beyond your comfort zone. I love it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for some people, it could be learning to learn a new language. For others, it could
Yeah.
be writing a book. Even I think back before I was 38 before I had my first child. And I realized that it took me that long to declare into because I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I've raised 5 kids now. But the fear of, oh, I mean, any of us who have kids know that it's a daunting task to think of raising a human being, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what do? We get pregnant and we have this child and then we figure it out every day. We're winging it every day. Or marriage, we're winging it every day. We don't know how to do marriage and relationship in that way. And so out of the commitment to go, okay, I'm committed to raising these children who are high functioning adults when they leave my house, and I want my relationship with them. This is the vision part. I want my relationship with my children to be loving and respectful and kind and collaborative, or I want my relationship with my husband to be passionate and loving and spontaneous and safe, or I want my career to be something I'm passionate about where I make a difference. All of those declaring into that then gave me the anchors of where to choose from day to day as my unfinished stuff showed up in my body.
Mm.
And then learning how to read my body by breathing in, going to where that physical sensation ignites, and being able to be with it, and then learning what's that feeling that's connected to that physical sensation? What are the thoughts connected to that physical sensation? And is there a healing moment for me of how do I be with what's happening inside of me so I clean that out of the body and free up my space to go after the big declarations that are important to me? And then
Yeah.
we feel proud of ourselves. We feel if you want to raise your self-esteem, live out of that model I just shared. If you want to feel proud of yourself and have self-respect, that's the way to do it. Because we're not proud of ourselves when we're reacting day to day with our
Absolutely.
partner, with our staff, with our team members. We're not proud when we shrink down into our lower vibration and we're operating out of being mediocre. We know we can't lie to ourselves. We know.
Well, like you said, like that internal part of you is going to, drag you down when you know you're doing that. And, you can deflect all you want onto other people and situations, but yeah, it still comes back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the work we do in transformational distinctions, once people know their vision, then being committed is I'm committed beyond my circumstances or my feelings. My
Mm.
feelings are going to come up. I'm going to work with them. And then I'm going to go after what I want to go after in my life out of that level 7 of commitment, we call it. And knowing that my perspectives, my perceptions, and all the, call it brainwashing that happened for me and each of us growing up is that's the movie that my brain plays and beginning to work with that, not like it's real, but like that's the movie I play. But there's something else available to me when I start to work with my own perceptions, my own interpretations, my own beliefs, because those create our experiences every day.
Mm.
So, like, imagine there's a light coming through the back of your head and it's shining out your perception of reality every day. And so, working with all of that brainwashing and being curious and being the observer of yourself, being curious about, well, that feels really real to me, but why do I see it that way? How is it perfect? I see it that way. And starting to
Yeah.
challenge, right? The Course in Miracles says, my good friend Christopher DeSanti teaches the Course in Miracles, and he's been a great mentor of mine. And the Course says, never believe anything that you think.
Yeah.
Question it, question everything.
Question everything. Well, I always like to say, just like if you want to you shift, be assertive in your communication, whether you're the sender and or the receiver, you always have to ask a question to clarify, did someone understand what you said and what did that mean to them? And are you in alignment? You got to do that with yourself too.
Yeah, especially with ourselves, especially with ourselves. Yeah, because our brain is in survival by nature, right? We've
Yeah.
all heard about the caveman brain, or we were cavemen at one point, right? The lower two levels of our brain, their only job is to keep us safe,
Yeah.
right? It really thinks it's doing what it needs to be doing for us. And so if you let that guide you and lead you, all that survival, you don't have access to living life on fire and to your passions. You'll have moments, but if that's not the context, the environment you live out of inside of yourself, then your automatics and your survival are at play and you don't even realize it. And they're
Yeah.
keeping you stuck. That's what causes the stuckness, the burnout, the lack of fulfillment, is you're operating out of survival.
You're out of right. I can look back and look back in 26 years ago when before I went through a transformation that you do with when you work with people and how I was doing that. First of all, I wasn't operating from who I was. I was trying to become like my father because I was seeking his validation I never got when I was growing up. So I tried to emulate him in order to get that validation. And but once, like you said, once I started breaking the chains of complacency and mediocrity and seeing the challenge as an opportunity and knowing that I don't have to control everything, that when you can just focus only on what you could control, and that is you, I can't control another human being or another or a situation in its whole. When I did that, it got me through that challenge. It got me through the fear of it, and I didn't because I was now not attached to the outcome. I was now dedicated to the process that was taking me in there, not the outcome itself. And it just changed my whole mindset. So what you're
Sure.
saying is just making so much sense because I could look back and go, God, I was burned out at the age of 30. And I if I had not changed, I probably can honestly say I would not be here today. That's
Yeah.
how because my burnout was showing up in anxiety attacks that I was having on a quarterly basis. What did I have? Fibroid tumors on my spine that they were not all physically. They were all because of my emotional imbalance and all the stress and anxiety I was putting on myself from avoiding all these things I just shared with you. So
Yeah.
I'm so 100% aligned with what you're saying.
I
100%.
love, love, love that you shared that, Christopher, because in our culture today, what we do is we're like, oh, we have these ailments, we go to the doctor. And then the doctor puts a medication on it. And we're like,
Yeah,
oh, well, it's not emotional, it's physical, but the body holds emotional memory. The organs all have emotional memory. And so to me, the first thing you could do for yourself to get into alignment with yourself, and I always say alignment is that what we think, what we say, what we feel, and what we do all line up inside of ourselves. It's living in integrity. That in and of itself is the best medicine you could do for the body because the body's speaking to you. Putting medicine on it, and I'm not opposed to medicines, but oftentimes what we're doing is we're covering over symptoms.
that's it. Yeah.
And then we're just masking it and then we're shoving it in deeper, right? And then you need another medication to handle the symptoms from the other medication as opposed to going, okay, let me get into my body. Let me be with what's happening in there. Am I exercising? Am I eating well? Am I thinking well? Am I emoting well? Right? Am I excited and passionate and loving in my relationships? Am I fulfilled? Because that medicine is the best medicine, right? Your
It's
breath
so
work.
true. So true. We're not, and that's what this show is all about. What you stated. We're not here to manage symptoms and problems. We're here to learn from them and to grow from them, to embrace them, to turn them into opportunities and results. It's about sustainability, but you got to get to the root cause. And I love what you are sharing here. I know we have a less than a minute before we go to our break. Anything you would like to add or kind of tie everything together, what you shared in this segment before we head to the break?
I think the tie-in is I think we are all very wise. I think if we just listen to that little voice that talks to us every day, not the one that beats us up or the ego or the limiting beliefs, but that one in our chest, that knowing. We know what we need if we would just listen. And so tap into your wise self and really listen, and it will guide you to the next step always.
Love it. Love it. Well, everybody, this has been a truly just an enlightening show. Hope everyone is getting great value. Again, we encourage everyone to listen to this segment, including more importantly, the entire episode once it concludes. There's just a lot of great information that Dr. Emery has shared here. And, no matter where you are, where this can help you. We got to go to break, but we come right back. We got more with the pressure paradox with Dr. Laurie Emery. Be right back. Welcome back to Sustainable Success. We're talking about the pressure paradox, the hidden truths behind burnout with high performers, or it just could be anybody, man or woman, in terms of where you are and how subtle the signs are with burnout. Well, today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types. They also offer now a new section dedicated to professional athletes. Yes, for you professional athletes now that are now either retiring and going into everyday life, you can now formulate groups where you can come together to make that transition more seamless so you don't have to do it alone. Whether if you're going into a new career, buying a business, a franchise, or just something personal that you might be working through, that this is a chance now to connect with others doing the same, that understand what it takes to, from being a professional athlete now going into everyday life. If you'd like some more information about that, check them out at alumnidirect.com. And they also have a podcast dedicated to that area, From Athlete to Entrepreneur, which is hosted by the founder and CEO of Alumni Direct named Rob Finkelstein. And again, we highly encourage you to check that out at alumnidirect.com. Dr. Emery, just such valuable information, what you shared about the foundation, what are some of the things behind burnout that you talked about? You talked about not managing symptoms, but actually getting to the root cause and understanding how the messages show up in our body, amongst other things, and in the things that we can be doing now to get to the root cause and now operate in the solution to pressure and to burnout. What would you say for those people now that now are doing something now? They're facing their challenges, they're embracing them, they're finding ways to not get themselves complacent. They've now understand the signs of burnout, knowing when to pull back, when to throttle forward, and so on. What would be some of the things that they can now do once that they're at that level? Now it's not just awareness, they're actually applying things that can now allow them to maintain and further grow from there.
Well, certainly I would say if there's a community of people where you can be involved in like-minded people who want to grow,
Yeah.
that having that kind of support is really powerful. Finding either a transformational coach or somebody who is well versed in transformation, not just clinical psychology. And I don't want to poo-poo it because I know there's a lot of really good psychologists and therapists out there, but I can't tell you the number of people who have said to me by the time they get to me, I've gone to therapist after therapist and I'm still not breaking through and I'm frustrated, right?
Yeah.
So I think
They're
combining.
treating the symptoms, right? That's what they're doing.
Right, right. Or we're just talking about the story and that doesn't create breakthrough. So getting the tools like we talked about on the previous part of the episode where you know what you want to go after and then having the tools to go into your body and be with what's happening in your body so that you can learn to stay with what you're feeling and experiencing, holding yourself accountable with how much by when to go after the things that you want. But I think learning to understand yourself, taking your history, like the way you brought up your dad, right? So it's not about going into your story so we wallow in it and we
Yeah.
can be a victim to it and we can blame our parents. It's not about that. We're very clear that all of our parents, regardless of how good or negative you think your childhood was, every experience we've had has shaped us,
Oh,
right? Every
absolutely.
time we go through an experience, we interpret the experience every time. And every time we interpret what's happening in the brain in survival is we create beliefs because we want to be right. We want to be safe. We want to hold on to an image that we have of ourselves or that we want to portray. And we want to stay in control. That's all survival. There's nothing wrong with being in control. There's certain situations we need that. Certain situations we need to be right about it because it does keep us in a safety situation, or we need, like a brain surgeon needs to know how to do surgery on the brain, right? Or you shouldn't be going to it. It's the need for it or it causes anxiety. And that need was formed out of some pain or fear for us growing up. So it's about understanding the puzzle pieces of what brought us to who we are today and where we operate from. And when you understand them and they make sense, like for example, even a lot of us high achievers, That high achieving for me came out, the need for achieving was because I got so much approval from my father. That was the one way I felt like he was proud of me. And so I developed the message of, oh, I'm only as good as the last achievement I've created. Not a truth, it's a belief, right? And so I love achieving today. I don't need to achieve because it means anything about my self-worth today. But in my younger years, that is where I was operating from, which caused me a lot of anxiety. And so every day, taking what it is you want in your life that you truly desire and holding yourself accountable for it out of a high level of commitment, finding someone who can coach you to see your blind spots, because we can't see our blind spots.
Yeah.
We know what we know, right? We already know, like, I know that I know Spanish. I know that I know how to parent my children in the way that I do today. And we know what we don't know. I know that I'm not an engineer. I know that I'm not a rocket scientist, right? I know that I don't know German. And then the key, though, in our blind spot is we don't know what we don't know, and we don't even know to ask for information from there. Any question we could ask comes from what we already know or don't know. So in the domain of knowledge, it's already a done deal. There's no possibility for growth there within ourselves. So if all you're doing in your day-to-day life is pulling from what you already know, then that's one of the reasons you're stuck. Because the juice of life happens in living in possibility, living in, it's like when we said we were going to go to the moon, right? They said we were going to the moon, and they said, well, since we're going, we better figure out how to make it work. And we are like that in our life. It's like there are many things you don't know how to do, but you might have a big desire for. Let's use writing a book. A lot of people have this desire to write a book. You may not know how, but the commitment of just getting started is going to bring up all your stuff that is unfinished for you.
Mm.
And when you know how to be with what's coming up, not like it's a truth, stay with the commitment. Keep letting the commitment guide you, but learn to keep cleaning out, like talking back to that voice that says, I don't know how, my information's not going to be worth it. No one's going to want to read my book. Like whatever that stuff is, all that stuff is doing is being created so that you stay safe and you don't have to risk. That's all that is. The brain is very sophisticated. And
Yes.
so learning to be with it, identify it, and stay with the commitment in your life of the thing that you want. And Christopher, this happens at such a small level every day. You can do it with the smallest of things. I'm committed to a loving, respectful, curious, passionate relationship with my husband. Well, in the moment I'm triggered, which is usually from my history or my own stuff, the moment I'm triggered, I don't really want to be loving and passionate and connected with him because I'm hijacked in that moment.
Mm.
But when I can be with what happened in my body when I got triggered, and then I can say to myself, what am I committed to with him, even though I don't feel like it? Because we're feeling junkies as human beings. We think our feelings are what we should react to, and react is the key word, as opposed to have your feelings and then choose your response based on what you're committed to in all areas of our life, whether it's money, whether it's passion with your partner, whether it's raising your children, whether it's writing that book, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's going after the career you really actually would love to get up and be involved in every day. Whatever it is, the driver has to be that you've declared it because you're clear you desire it and you're passionate about it, and then you operate and choose your behavior out of those commitments of what you're committed to creating, not your feelings, your thoughts, your judgments, your circumstances, right? We
Yeah.
call it being commitment driven versus and vision driven versus circumstance driven.
Yes. Yes. Circumstances means that we're gonna, react all the time. In this case, we're acting out of that, whatever that emotion we're experiencing. If it's anger, which that was my primary emotion and what I operated from. That didn't serve me too well. It got me into a lot of a lot of situations butting heads with people, and instead of now knowing I could choose to operate from a better emotion, even though it didn't mean I didn't have to acknowledge the negative. I didn't stuff it. I had to address it. I had to find out, okay, what's causing. Was it the guy who cut me off in traffic really got me that angry? No, it probably is deeper than that. And thank God I knew where it was coming from eventually, and I addressed it. But nonetheless, yeah, everything you shared is just really spot on. And again, I'm glad that you're on here, and this is a great way to head into Q3, and then start Q4 at the end of the year. Uh, Anything else you would like to elaborate in this particular area, Dr. Emery? Feel free to do so.
I want people to know, Christopher, that it doesn't have to take a long time to break through. It
Yeah,
doesn't with the right tools. And when you combine being the observer of yourself, understanding what it feels like to be in your experience, creating presence, and knowing, being willing to have the courage to know and say what you want to go after in your life, and the honesty to say that the way things are right now, it doesn't mean they're bad, but I'm not living life passionately fulfilled and on fire. Like it doesn't have to take a long time. And so when you find the right coach, the right tools, it can happen pretty quickly, which is why, like my packages, I sell 3 month packages at a time, because if I'm not getting you to break through within 3 months, I'm not doing my job correctly.
yeah. It's true. And like I said, this is a process. And like you said, coaching goes beyond just therapy, because coaching is guiding people to help themselves, not like therapy that just kind of like, well, I'm not there. I mean, there's a place for therapy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to be negative on therapy, but knowing that it's not again about rehashing the problem. It's now seeing the problem for what it is, no matter what deck of cards you were dealt with, being brought into this world, just knowing what can you do now to maximize. Like I cherish the challenges I went through early in my life, because without them I wouldn't be now operating in my strength or in the solution without going through that. I would have never
Sure,
known. And
sure.
so instead of now trying to avoid it like I did back in the day. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Transformation happens in those deep, dark places in ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
transformation is distinct from, do I want to just, I call it rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic and feel better for a minute, and then everything slides back, as opposed to transformation is permanent and lifelong
Yes.
and different after transformation.
Right. Changes again how you communicate to yourself and others, your behavior, your attitude, seeing things happening for you, not to you,
Yeah.
and how you respond versus react. And now your actions align with what you say and how you behave. It's not, doesn't contradict.
Yeah, and I think for all of us to say, what would it take to live a life where I get to the end of my life and say, I don't have any regrets. I declared into everything I said I wanted, and I
There you
did.
go. I love that word, what you said. I declare. Ah, powerful, powerful stuff. Well, I know that we're at the end of the show, and I want to make sure there's enough time that people get a chance to connect with you and get to know you better beyond this show. Anything that you would like to share with them or what you're up to, this is the time that you can do that. And first off, before we do that, I want to thank you personally, as well as the rest of the team here at Sustainable Success with Voice America Business Channel, for taking the opportunity to be with us here today.
Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate being here. Yeah, anybody can get a hold of me at ignitewithdrlaurie.com. And I run different types of programs. I work with executive teams, and I call myself a relationship expert. And so every relationship has its own survival knot. So executive teams will bring me in. I specialize in working with couples and founders of businesses. And so my book is also on my website, Ignite Your Life. You can get a hold of that. And yeah, those are the places to get a hold of me. And I want to thank you for having me. I love getting this message out. I am absolutely committed to having people live out of fulfillment and their passion and their joy in life. I want it for everybody.
Love it. Well, everybody, we highly encourage you again to connect with Dr. Emery. All of her contact information that she shared will also are in the show notes here on the Lisbon platform with Sustainable Success. It also could be available as well on Apple and Spotify, and I believe also YouTube as well. But again, you could always go back to the Lisbon platform, and all that information is there. And if you happen to reach out to us, we'll make sure to connect you with Dr. Emery as well. But again, this is an opportunity now to stop managing the problem, stop wasting more time, taking shortcuts, thinking you're saving money by doing that. Invest in somebody that has been there, like yourself, can understand where you're at, and these are the things that are going to help now get you on a path towards operating in the solution. I know I did back in the day, and I've never regretted it, and it was the investment I ever made in terms of where I was and where I am today. So we highly encourage you to do that. In the final, 20 seconds that we have before I close out the show, Dr. Laurie, anything that you'd like to share, like a quote or any final comment in 15, 20 seconds? It's all yours.
Again, I want everyone to know, like, you've got that wise self inside of you. The way to follow that light inside of you. And I think that when you listen to yourself, that's where the magic happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, thank you again for being here with us. We greatly appreciate your presence and sharing your words of wisdom and insights. Most importantly, your personal experience with us here today.
Thank you so much, Christopher.
And thank you, listeners, joining us here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed each and every week bringing in subject matter experts like Dr. Emery in to help you elevate you personally and your business to the next level. We talk on, again, a wide variety of different topics, not just always business, but things that also help us in personal and professional development, because it is the foundation that we build everything in terms of success upon. And if there's any content that we have not shared here, which might be hard to believe because we've covered a lot of content here over 8.5 years, but if there is something you'd like to see that we have not covered, feel free to reach out to our team at chris@sustainablesuccess.net. We'd be more than happy to capture that information and see about including that on a future episode. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you here next Thursday, same time, 5 p.m. And have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.